What's up? What's up? Hey, so grateful and thankful for everybody that's in the room, getting everything set. I see some of the people. Hey, if y'all are here right now, let's go ahead and see who is in the comments. We have a special show. It's going to be fun. Check Facebook. Looks like it's running good. YouTube's running good. Oh, cool. We got some people in the room. Of course, Brother Christopher, you are always the number one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Blessings to you. Flint, Michigan. Miss Gwen. Yes, it's good to see you. Miss Marie. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, Dr. Dorothy, I just got off the phone with you. Almost missed my show. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Miss Dorothy is tapping in from Maryland, I believe. In between all of that spaces of DC and Baltimore and right. I'm gonna get that all right. Yes, yes. Hey, Mrs. Mother White. It's good to see you, Mother White. It's Deidre. I know you know some of Miss Dara Tucker's work. It's going to be a treat. You guys are going to really enjoy this. Dr. Gigi. Hi, girl. Someone I know who is a beautiful person. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. This is going to be beautiful, guys. I don't think I mean, honestly, I've followed her for a while, and I don't believe I've really heard this story we're going to hear tonight. Dr. John Thomas, I think you will take that, right? All right. Well, let's get the show on the road so we don't be here all night, because you know me. We got some special treats. We got Dr. Joe Brown, who will grace us with some music. Rave on. John says rave on. I think he's talking about, I went to a rave this past weekend. I had a full weekend. I went to a Hindu with John. We went to a Hindu temple, which, well, I'll show you some of that footage. We'll probably go back. Went to a Buddhist temple, just visited here. It was neat. But then I went to a rave that night, and I really felt like I was, like, literally, I felt like I was at church, my people. All right. The last one we give here is Mother Gloria Worthy. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, yeah. And I'm sorry, Carl. Yes, yes. Thank you guys for tapping in, tuning in. You have liked and shared. Make sure you do that. We're going to get this show on the road. We're not going to waste any time. You know, today I want to do something a little different because, you know, one of the things that I do know, as we are all working towards understanding more of who we are and being able to become and lean into our higher self. I do know that we will have a moment of meditation, but before that moment of meditation, I just want to go ahead, just because I want to go ahead and bring Dr. Joe Brown to the stage and just briefly talk. But you know, hey, sir.
Hey, it's so good to be here tonight.
It's good to have you. He's followed us for a little while, right? And he's got a whole story. You'll learn about his story. I'll share his story and we'll share some more of his video. But just so you guys know, go ahead and you can show them one reason why you're here this evening. Yes. As we were working things out and figuring out, like, sound wise on how to have our own connection and being able to do what we do. One of the things that I was like, you know what? I'm going to have you on and we're going to be able to have you on so we can have some sounds, right? And so before this night's over, we're going to have Dr. Joel play some things, whether it leads to music or it leads to some meditative things that just know it's our night, it's our time, right? To open up, share, love, because I think it's a moment in time because Miss Dara Tucker has a beautiful story, and I believe she began to deconstruct her religious beliefs and begin to move into her own space of who she is. And so, without further ado, I would like to bring her on.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on with us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. So, for 60 seconds, I'm going to let Joel play, and then we will end that. We'll begin this discussion. We'll talk to you about some of your journey and what you've been through and how you end up to where you are today as an amazing creator, right? And helping people learn and expand in all kinds of ways. That sound good?
Sounds good.
And if anybody are out there, I'm seeing this, monitoring what you guys are saying. If you got questions or anything like that, you can put them up, and I might even bring someone up. Yes, thank you, Miss. Says hello. And we got Cynthia. All right. Thank you much, sir. So, what I would like to just start this out with, honestly, is like, first, I haven't really shared. I'm not sure if you guys just really seen some of her work. Like, I know you're sitting right here, but I want them to actually, just in case you don't know, then you need to know. This is who we have here.
Is the king.
Well, you ain't never gonna rather have your hand on a friend of mine.
For a large swath of the Black population in the U.S., the only thing he's the king of is cultural appropriation.
You ain't nothing but a...
Now, some would argue that because Elvis helped to popularize Black American music all around the world, he should be celebrated as something of a de facto cultural ambassador for Black music. In their eyes, what he did was appreciation, not appropriation. And even if it was appropriation, what's the big deal anyway? You can't own culture. But is it really that simple? Should culture be safeguarded and protected? When does appreciation become appropriation? I'm Dara Tucker, and this is The Breakdown. Elvis's success opened the floodgates for a slew of artists who have gained popularity over the years performing music that was born out of the struggle, triumph, and creativity of Black Americans. Though Elvis Presley is the most famous person to be accused of cultural appropriation, he certainly isn't the only one.
Mommy, I'm coming.
He's not even the first. But what exactly is cultural appropriation, and why is it always seen as a negative thing? The Encyclopedia Britannica defines cultural appropriation this way: a member of a majority group profiting financially or socially from the culture of a minority group. Well, newsflash, that happens a whole lot. Sports teams being named after Native Americans, the rampant use of AAVE by any and everyone in online spaces.
Oh, Whoop the Whoop gonna be there like your favorite rapper, the big ass person.
And endless musical groups who have taken the affects and stylings of Black musicians without any real attempt to pay homage to where the music and style actually came from. But why is this referred to as appropriation and not as appreciation? Well, let's use language as an example. I learned the German language because I appreciated it. I acknowledge where it came from, who developed it, who spoke it first, and I look to native speakers to guide me in my usage of their language. I don't mind acknowledging that I'm a visitor to their culture, and I always will be. As an informal American dialect, African-American vernacular English is barely recognized as anything other than Gen Z slang by the culture at large.
We now return to the thrilling conclusion of Gen Z Hospital.
Is Bestie gonna be okay? I'm so pressed right now, bro.
Don't be pressed. The doctor will be in shortly, bro. Dead ass.
It's co-opted, misused, and adopted by those seeking to gain social clout.
I did give me some legs, because I wanted a little bit of cringe with my feeling, you know what I'm saying? Okay, period.
And when that happens, its origins are often discounted as if it just rose up from the earth. The idea that it actually belongs to anyone is seen as almost laughable. African Americans who speak this way are often looked down upon, while white kids use it to increase their social media following and get record deals. When appreciation begins to take on an element of exploitation, it becomes appropriation. In other words, the person from that majority group now stands to gain something, either financially or through increased social cachet, by taking on mannerisms, language, symbols, customs, or styles that they picked up from a minority group. Does this require avarice or malice on the part of the person doing the appropriating? Well, not necessarily. Can the effect still be harmful to that minority group? Absolutely. Minority groups are often vilified or marginalized for the same behaviors that are praised once someone from the majority culture engages in them. Full lips and hips, dreadlocks, streetwear, not to mention hip hop, R&B, rock and roll, the blues. These were all seen as dangerous, low class, or objectionable until white kids started to latch onto them. History is filled with Black artists who have been shortchanged or overlooked altogether when white performers and executives figured out how to monetize Black art. So it's no wonder that minority groups would feel possessive about their culture. Many people feel that safeguarding it and protecting it from exploitation is necessary to ensure that members of that minority group are in the best position to reap the financial benefits of the popularity of that art. But it's not just about financial gain. It's also about safeguarding culture and traditions that can be very easily absorbed by the mainstream with no acknowledgement of where the art came from. And those two concepts are really at the heart of this discussion: acknowledgement and compensation. Black music's popularity in the mainstream has come at the expense of any substantive acknowledgement of the contribution that Black artists have made to the advancement of popular music. From syncopated rhythms to blue notes to dominant chord voicings, the very foundation of popular American music rests on the shoulders of Black innovators. But all too often they're seen as an afterthought, underpaid, underappreciated, and unacknowledged. Well, look at this shiny piece of gold I found on the ground while walking through Negro Town. Guess it belongs to me now. Now, obviously, style isn't something that can be copyrighted. You can't trademark swagger. No one's going to pay you royalties for drip. When mainstream culture starts to catch on to AAVE, musical styles, or clothing trends, historically, Black people have responded with startling consistency. We move on. We create something new. And that new thing often ends up being vilified until young white kids start doing it. And designers and record execs figure out a way to make it profitable. And the cycle continues. It's very telling that the idea of culture is so loosely regarded, particularly among younger people who may not even understand what it is. Think about it. If the only real representation of true culture that you see around you comes from the Black and brown kids at your school or the ones you see online or in the movies, you'd want to be a part of that, especially if the closest thing that you've had to culture is Walmart, mega churches, and Applebee's, and a society that tells you you're supposed to subdue and dominate everything around you. The reality is that the further white Americans move away from their cultures of origin, English, Scottish, Italian, Irish, the more they long for a sense of true culture beyond what American consumerism can provide. Since Black Americans were forcibly removed from our African cultures of origin centuries ago, and were also cut off from mainstream culture in the US, we had to develop a unique cultural expression that can only be described as Black American culture. And the exploitation of that culture has been big business in the US since the days of minstrelsy. Since the ascent of the alleged king, there have been thousands of contenders to his throne. We can only hope that the conditions of their coronations would require them to both understand the history of the music they're choosing to reference and to shine a light on the pioneers that made their ascent possible in the first place.
I got to take a minute. I don't know how you layer it on so thick with so much information and content and it's so real and you deliver it so quickly. Holy cow. I mean, thank you.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that in a while. I'm sitting back trying to see where I was going myself. Just like,
You layered it so thick and so much. I was just wanting I want them to get an example of what you're doing, but I label this as an expansion or expanded consciousness. It's an awareness, because you didn't just talk about the misappropriation. You didn't talk about whether the white people can or cannot do it. You talked about the fact that when we would be ourselves and do it, especially when we talk about, I was just talking about this tonight, when we talk about American Africans or American Black people, really we American Africans, because of the fact that I consider us American from descendants of Africa. It's a whole conversation, but it talks about everything that you are talking about, which would be the appreciation of the experience of Black people that are from America. I mean, Black people that are from Africa that went through the transatlantic slave trade all the way up into America, and the history that we have for the last 400 years, really technically the last 150 years, what we've been able to accomplish as American, Black American people. But anyways, thank you so much. Well, we might get back to that, but oh my God. Holy cow, that's heavy. And I know I haven't looked at the comments, but what I want to ask you first is about your faith-based or your religious, evangelical, Pentecostal, whatever you call it, all that church background leading up to, because I don't think you necessarily went to higher dimensions. It was more after Carlton done all of what he did. But tell me about your background leading up to your own deconstructing process.
Well, my parents were ministers. My father was a music minister, and my mother was a singer. So I grew up with music, and I grew up with ministry in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And my grandmother was a woman named Mother Grace Tucker. So she was a pastor, a Pentecostal holiness pastor, with a homeless ministry in that city. So that was kind of my early upbringing, is just music, and it was ministering to people who had nothing to give us. And so our father started out in his mother's church playing organ and writing music and all of that, and then he ended up kind of breaking away from that world a bit and connecting with the non-denominational people. So the evangelical world is where we kind of landed with him, and he moved us to Spokane, Washington, Detroit, Michigan. We ended up I spent some time in Arkansas, New Jersey. I mean, we were all over the place. But always kind of came back to Tulsa, came back and replanted ourselves in his mother's ministry. So I kind of grew up with one foot in each world, one foot in the Pentecostal holiness world and one foot in the more evangelical kind of charismatic word of faith world. And so, yeah, that was my early acclimation, really all the way through probably college, because I ended up going to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So yeah, Carlton Pearson's ministry was always around. It was, our parents knew him very well. My mother's brother was actually his best friend when they were kids, and they kind of came up together in their early, adulthood, late teen years and early adulthood. So the Carlton Pearson was kind of always a part of my consciousness, my awareness. But no, I didn't connect with his ministry until much later, after I obtained my degree in international business and German studies from Oral Roberts University. Then I felt like I did not have a grasp of the language at all, obviously having studied German at Oral Roberts. And so I left, went to Switzerland for a while, came back. And then that was when all that stuff exploded with, my family was accosting me when I got back. Hey, did you hear Carlton Pearson? He went crazy. he hadn't lost his mind. It was just it was the talk of the city. Of course, in a town like Tulsa, where Carlton Pearson's ministry was so significant, for him to change it up in the way that he did, it really shook everyone, because we had, I had gone to, like I said, went to ORU. I was a part of Souls of Fire there, which is the gospel choir that Carlton Pearson started in Tulsa. So I was there under the direction of David Smith for 5 years at ORU. So Carlton Pearson was still very much a part of that. He would come back and, sing with us occasionally. So that's when I got curious as to what was going on with him, and just kind of stopped by Higher Dimensions. And that was when the congregation had really dwindled quite a bit. But I kind of wanted to see for myself what was going on. But I had already been through my own progression with kind of questioning some of the fundamentalism that I had grown up with, and figuring out what part of my faith was meaningful to me, and what part of all of that was maybe indoctrination, and was, there's always a lot of propaganda kind of woven into any staunch belief system, fundamentalist belief system, which is a lot of what I grew up with. So yeah, I started that process. I was always a questioner. I was always the kid who was asking questions and wondering, why do we do what we do? And so, it annoyed everybody. It annoyed everyone. And I don't know that I really got many answers, but my father was always a thinker. He was always someone who appreciated those questions. He never really stopped me from asking those questions. But it was always kind of, you were always sort of directed to, we have to land here. We got to land back at this, at this place. It was never really something I was invited to deeply question, but definitely, intellectual curiosity was always appreciated in our home. But there are a million and one things. People say, what sparked you to make your journey of, through deconstruction? At that time, we were not using the term deconstruction at all. That you was rebellious, as my grandmother called it. So it just was not really allowed. So a lot of that stuff, I did not deeply question until I left ORU and went to Switzerland, and really kind of just got to clear my mind and start writing music where I was expressing what was going on in me. So that was really probably the start of my so-called deconstruction process, probably, a little bit through college. I had some great professors, by the way, at ORU who really sort of in their way gave me permission to start maybe asking some deeper questions, and let me know that I would not fall off of the edge of the world by asking those questions. So I really appreciate them, even being a part of, such a staunchly Christian university. There were people there who encouraged that critical thought. So I really, truly appreciate that.
Yeah, I went to Oral Roberts.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I moved here. My father's a pastor.
Okay.
Kojic.
That my grandmother came out of Church of God in Christ, and she came out of Church of God in Christ because they did not allow women to pastor, and she felt like she was called to pastor. So she pastored for 50 years in Tulsa, and the only reason that she was not Church of God in Christ is because they would not, let her do what she felt called to do.
Your grandmother was, I know you've been probably disconnected from Tulsa for a long time in terms of living here, but your grandmother's a living legend.
That she is.
Your grandmother has a Wikipedia page.
She does. She does.
Okay.
Mother Grace Tucker. Yeah.
You come like, it's funny because we talk about deconstructing and we talk about what they did. I think a lot of that has to do with what they understood of what they were doing. But even in that, when you have Mother Tucker, she was still kind of, I would consider, advanced in that space. She was still advanced whenever it comes to us thinking about spirituality, especially from the Black perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Somebody says Dara has a Wikipedia page too. Yes, we have a superstar with us. She's amazing. You're amazing. Working with someone. I work with Wayman Tisdale too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's how I end up knowing Bishop. It's because I was working with, of course, a Bishop, but then working with his basically led to pretty much everybody in Oklahoma and beyond. But she was I just posted actually a news article or news so people can kind of get an understanding of this ancestral roots that you have. So your deconstructing process, what does it entail because there was no word for deconstructing, and just to leave the church or to think about thinking different and being empowered to actually say, you know what, something does not make sense. This is not adding up. And I'm going to go on my own journey. And I'm going to process this. Of course, now I don't know if you know it, but right now, deconstructing is huge within the Pentecostal, not really, it's more of evangelical, big time everywhere. You know, we talk about white deconstructing versus black deconstructing and different, because the church is a part of our lives, you know. And so what happened in between that? What did you do? Did you do meditation? Did you read anything? What happened in between that space? Like once you went from, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, and especially with the family and Mother Tucker, and then being who you were already like the superstar in the family. People seeing that you had gifts and talents and was like, oh my goodness, you should be in the ministry. What'd you read? What helped you along the way? What helped you break through?
Well, you know, I went through, like a lot of people, I went through a Course in Miracles phase. And I would listen to people who really were more rooted in spiritual thought and just like, okay, well, what's going on in this world? I remember getting books on world religions and kind of wanting to understand, where was my religion, religious history situated in the pantheon of religions. It was like, well, anytime you questioned this stuff, it was really taboo. It was really kind of off limits. It's like, don't go too far with that, So the first phase of that, I think, was really just more so a curiosity of just wanting to understand the history and wanting to understand more about what other people believed, even within Christian faiths. I remember having a coworker. This was in a job that I had in Detroit, Michigan, right after college, and she was a Jehovah's Witness, and I don't know if she was Seventh-day Adventist or Jehovah's Witness. Either way, I went into her office and I just said, would you tell me more about your faith? Tell me more about your background and your religious beliefs. So it was a freeing thing just to be able to separate myself from that environment where I had a lot of folks telling me, we don't go past this fence. This is what we believe, and everyone else out there is wrong. Bless their hearts. We love them, but they're wrong. So there were a few years of me just kind of just trying to understand what other people believed without judgment. And so for me, when I see, I'm very, very active on TikTok. And so I am very much involved in the religious deconstruction community. I don't know how I became involved with them. But I guess they just found me because I would make certain statements here and there. I did a video on the chick tracks, the old, the tracks that are meant for witnessing to other people, which were big in my childhood. And I did a whole, like 2-part video on those. And I think a lot of folks just started finding me from that. But, when I started to make that separation, there wasn't a word for it. It certainly was not called deconstruction, and there was no community, and there was nobody to look to and say, hey, is this okay? And how are you feeling? And what sort of isolation or emotional sense of separation are you feeling in this? There was nothing like that. And with a lot of these folks who are in the so-called deconstruction community now, it's just like, well, during the pandemic, we realized that everything that we felt was false. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot imagine just 2 or 3 years. You've gone from being a worship leader in your church to now you are atheist, or you're agnostic, or you're just deeply questioned. For me, it was a very long process. There was a very long process. So like I said, there was the, kind of intellectual questioning and just understanding and contextualizing my own, the history of my own faith, and understanding where to place that within the culture. And then there was, like I said, going through that Course in Miracles phase where you're just sort of listening to different, reading Eckhart Tolle and other authors, and anybody Oprah recommended. I was there, and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and just that whole group, that whole just sort of expanded consciousness group, which kind of helped me to understand just some spiritual principles in general, and just how, because I grew up in a movement called like Word of Faith, or the charismatic movement. So that sort of name it and claim it. And, a lot of, we believed in just miracles and healings and the outward manifestation of the works of the Holy Spirit and stuff. So to connect with other spiritual communities at that time was not a difficult thing. It's like they were talking about especially the people like Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, like they were talking about a whole lot of stuff that I grew up with and very much understood to be this is how the Spirit of God moves. And they would even use terms like the Holy Spirit, Marianne Williamson as well. So I understood a lot of what they were talking about. They just, it wasn't necessarily planted in religious belief. They weren't necessarily tying that to, we accepted that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and blah, blah, blah. It was just more so we are human beings and we're attempting to connect with our source. So I appreciated a lot of that, learning a lot about those worlds and just, understanding that people could have a connection to their source without necessarily tying it to religious beliefs, and certainly without tying it to religious fundamentalism. So I don't do a lot of investing at this point in sort of cliques or cults or groups or, schisms or whatever. I say often that I'm not a joiner. I don't really join anything. It's difficult for me to identify with any, though I know, who I get down with. I don't wave the flag of any particular political party or, that belonging to things. I think that sense of you're either with us or you're against us, that triggers a lot of my kind of deep religious trauma. And so I wouldn't say that I'm really particularly locked into any community now, except that I love to connect with fellow travelers who are exploring and trying to understand this human experience a little bit better. Beautiful.
I think we all are, honestly. And I think since you have such early foundational, and when I say early foundational, it wasn't quote popular, but it's been around for a long time, whether we go New Thought or Theocracy Society, or, I've discovered, I have a Bishop John Lewis. He's a person his family was in Detroit, and they had the it was like divine mastery or divine mind, Church of Divine Mind. And this was like long ago. It wasn't necessarily, I've been going over a lot of the history, and we're talking deconstructing, and we start talking about all the things we've been through. And then of course now we get even afraid almost to to be a part of spirituality. In terms of, because there's the woo-woo side, where you got the person with the crystals and you got the person with this, so I get it. I get exactly what you feel when it comes to labels and when it comes to what we've been through. But the other thing I understand too is it okay for us to have an expression? Because a lot of what we have is remnants of African spiritual African spiritualism, right? Things that hoodoo and things that we had when we were African doing our thing, but then in being introduced colonization and being introduced to Christianity. And now there's a lot of argument with whether Christianity was in Africa or not. And of course, I believe there's Eastern philosophy and early, I'm really big in mysticism, just more for understanding and metaphysics. And to me, it's like what works for you and what truly works for you. And when I mean what works for us is we have to expand. We have to expand what is already expanded in the consciousness, because the thing is like we have self-automated driving cars, But the reason why people can make the decisions that they make politically has a lot to do with the control that people in spiritual autonomy, spiritual independence, not being able to, if you could just get yourself spiritually free, but in order to get spiritually free, you got to get mind free. Your mind is locked up before you can even feel spiritual. Then therefore, heck, I mean, self-healing yourself is here more if you actually just can get your mind and spirit connected and aligned, right? I use it. That's the thing is, like, you remember just going to church. Might of fact, Miss Dara, I'll tell you, my mother had a service. Let me make sure she's not on here right now watching. She had her appreciation service this week, right? And this guy was sitting there, and what I know about some science and spirituality and the things of and related to expansion of consciousness is there a lady, she's got oxygen on her nose, and she comes up there to get prayed for, and he's like, we want some healing tonight, we want some healing, y'all come on up here, and we want some healing tonight. He's gonna touch her. This lady begins to, like, I don't know if she's feeling or what she's feeling, but at the same time she's got oxygen, and I'm seeing her and she's like, and I'm like, she gonna fall and pass out, and he's screaming, new lungs, new lungs, new lungs.
Oh my God.
And I'm sitting here witnessing, and my brother Toby, he said, be ready. He said, it's gonna be okay. He said, you're gonna be in there like those memes where you see something, you turn and you look, it's crazy, and then you turn and look. No lungs, no lungs. And I'm like, metaphysically, and it's like, it's already done. You don't have to do all that, right? You just, there's a whole thing. Like, why would Jesus, if you believed in God, why do you need to do all that? Like, do you need to necessarily, like, you gonna have her, she might think you're about to push her over. So it's so many different things that, and then you have all this energy of all these people that are just going emotionally crazy. And and the only thing that I can really feel is the fact that it's part of history. It's a part of us. It's just a part of what we misunderstand and operate off of levels of emotion. And so there's a connection. What I'm saying, essentially, there's a connection to what we have experienced as Black people, especially in church, and being able to be free and exploring. It's hard to, like, not throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to this experience and expression, but there's a lot of people that are discovering and looking and wanting to explore. And guess what? You are one of the people that are the leaders in this exploration from where you come from. I mean, it is what it is, and we need you to keep telling stories. You and storytelling is phenomenal. Like, phenomenal. I can't imagine what you could do telling a story in regards to spiritually how people, because we can all be in some level of wilderness and just wondering and discovering. But there's a lot of people that are like, where do I begin? How do I begin? What do I do? And but that leads me up to your storytelling, because you really tell stories like Walter Cronkite. I mean, like, you're coming in here telling a story. Like, have you been involved in journalism? Like, or was that part of your career?
I have half of a master's in mass communications, and so I wanted to study journalism. I did not finish my master's when I lived in Nashville, Tennessee. I lived there for 13 years before I moved here up north. I'm in Philly now. So I had I always knew that I loved documentary. I always knew that when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actress. That's all I ever wanted to be, actress and director. But I never had the opportunity. ORU was kind of a family school, wanted to go to UCLA, wanted to study film there. Just kind of, so that's what I am. I'm just a frustrated, director. I just always thought that I was going to pursue that as a career as a kid. And it just kind of never happened. And so I get that all out in the way that I do. I'm just sort of working that out on my computer and with my little DSLR camera. In my own little way. It's like, hey, nobody can stop you from telling your own stories from where you are, from wherever you are. You didn't get to go to UCLA. You didn't get to direct movies. You can still be a storyteller. And so that's what my life is kind of a testament of. It's like, well, a lot of things were thwarted. I kind of have, carry that sense with me a lot, that there's a lot with me that has been at the very least deferred, a lot of dreams deferred. And so I'm just kind of working through that. I just got through, as a keyboard behind me here, I just got through playing through some, I think you were talking about just like I don't know if you were talking about music or I was just kind of going to a place in my own mind when you were talking to Joel, I think his name was earlier. My father was a music minister, and he never really taught me to play the piano, but I learned a lot just from being around him, from being raised in a home where, someone was playing by ear constantly. And so I picked up what I did. I don't play a whole lot now, but it's like being able to reconnect with that and work through that. And I just got through playing and recording myself playing some worship songs right before I got on with you. And so, again, it's just, I'm just mining, just pulling from that well and trying to figure out what all of this means to me. And it's like, you're just sort of gathering these, and I've heard Carlton Pearson talk about this before, gathering these pieces, these parts of yourself, you're going on this little Easter egg hunt and like, all right, well, what was this thing that I was given? Because it's very interesting growing up, in an environment where you don't necessarily feel that all of this construct was made for you. This was not really built with you in mind. And so you go through life as a questioner. If you are like me, you go through life as a questioner, and you don't feel, it's like being Black in America. It's like you have this sense that this is not where I'm supposed to be. This wasn't made for me. And so when you go through life with that particular point of view, then oftentimes your default is to reject everything that's given to you. And I think you used the term earlier, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, in terms of your spirituality. So then, when you go through that deconstruction process, then you kind of find yourself on the back end of that, kind of circling back and coming around to a lot of the stuff that you left behind. Because your attitude and your approach was, well, no, that's not for me. And I got to get rid of it, reject it, push it away. I got to figure out who I am. I've had to figure out what all of this means to me. And so, to kind of come to a point where you're more settled in yourself and in who you are and in what you believe, and you have that grounding and you have that confidence, that then can allow you to turn all that around and go, okay, now what are these little parts of myself and my upbringing and, this thing that my grandmother taught me, that she told me that, man, this was a nugget. This is gold. Like, don't let that go. That's gold. Don't let that go. What did your father teach you? And what did your mother say? And, what are these conversations that you had with your brothers and sisters? What did you learn in church? And, music. What are the music that you grew up with? What did that teach you? And there's just a bedrock that we have to land at that says, you know what? My upbringing was what it was. I got what I got. And if I can't call on that, if I can't mine that and have that be the thing that propels me forward, then I have no foundation. I'm on shaky ground. So I think, appreciating the foundation of where we come from, like it's a reclaiming of ourselves. And so I think that, has a lot to do with, like you're saying, that revisiting of spirituality. Now, like, okay, now what parts of this are meaningful to me? How does this apply to my life and how I process through things? Because I've got to have the tools that I need to be able to live, to go from day to day. Like, I don't need to be out here, like the Jewish adage says, like a fiddler on the roof. I'm just, blowing in the wind. I need to have some sense of grounding. So that's why you see a lot of us, even who have come through that process of so-called deconstruction. We are, we're trying to find those pillars that held us down when we were coming up, and, eating the fruit and spitting out the seeds and trying to figure out, we get rid of the filter that toxic stuff out, but don't throw away that gold. So that's a daily process. That's a daily process for me.
Jesus. Do you know you have do you know what you probably understand what it may take to be an Oprah? Do you understand what that is? What I mean by that?
I say Oprah was like my second mama. I don't know. People criticize her a lot online, but Oprah half raised me. She half raised me, so I deeply appreciate her gift. I really do.
Is she not the most wealthiest Black woman?
Oh, she's got to be. Absolutely.
Right. Probably 3-4 billion. If you become, I don't care who you are. If you are worth $1 billion, half a billion, but if you're worth $1 billion and you're Black, you can't escape it. You can't escape it for the most part. If you're white, you just get to fly under the radar. But if you're Black and you're worth $1 billion, I'm not sure about a person and their lifestyle, but what it takes to be that person and to walk in that spirit and to walk into that essence and to understand like everything that's around you, like owning that position, understanding and being able to metaphysically, she uses it every day, all day. What a lot of times with us in from the spiritual space and church don't understand is like a lot of the, when I speak metaphysically teachings and, you start talking about, whether it be the Abrahamic ones, so Sunni, Kabbalah, right, and then Christian mysticism. A lot of those early foundations were not what we have today. Like what we see today as Christianity was not what it is. It's just Oral Roberts and a lot of others. I was trained in Oral Roberts to do media. And so and I did marketing at a Christian school. So literally I was trained to take corporate America and produce it inside the church. And it's very effective.
Wow.
Very effective. You can't beat us. You can't beat us. We can get you to give. Like, you imagine if you can give 20,000 people, 25,000 people to give 10% of their income. If you can, now you have the internet. And if you can give 1 million, if you got 5 million followers, 6, 7, 10 million followers on the internet in the Christian space, and I say them specifically because they have a lot of history and what we can do and the power we can do. We have to have some level of spiritual autonomy and independence, and we do. And they have used that to gain and build these individual institutions over the years. That's just what it is. I don't come against it. It's just what it is, right? Trying to discover and wonder, and then capitalism gets involved, right? And, and I'm just talking about the past, 500 years, let alone the last 2,500 years. You can't tell me what happened you can't tell me what happened with Black folks in Tulsa, Oklahoma 100 years ago. How you going to tell me what happened 2,500 years ago with the Bible? Like, we can't, there's a cognition issue, and there's a lot of different things going on that we've had, but we're breaking free coming out. Hopefully some of these people will start doing some psilocybin or something and breaking free, whatever it takes, use some ketamine or something that it takes for these people to come out of the psychosis, right? We are expanding whether you want it to or not, but I'm here to let you know, like, with what you do and how eloquent you are, even though you have reached the position and place you are, it is really a great firm foundation where you're headed to millions. You're headed to doing that documentary. You're headed to, it's just a matter of time, and you keep going because, dear God, like, you are powerful.
Thank you.
I know you're powerful. You're so powerful that some of those Christian people call you a witch. What does she know? How does she know it?
Oh, dear God.
They will. Do you think they not call Oprah that?
Oh, yeah. I've been, yeah. I mean, that's been since I was a kid. They've been trying to put that on Oprah.
They try to put on and the thing is they don't even know what it is. How much paganism and witchery are you ready to burn some of people at the stake? You know what I mean? Almost got me like Harris whenever she said, and this what? All of a sudden she became 100% black.
That gave me life.
What do you think happens to the world? I don't care who it is in terms of like what they believe, policy, this or that, right? What happens to the world if a woman is president of the United States of America, let alone the woman have African descent, just a woman in general, right? You have a whole change in paradigm, right? This thing is, they feel like they feel, and they should feel like they feel, based on just the level of awareness and consciousness and what constructs and how they are internalizing. They have no choice. The only choice they have is they would have to break down their spiritual autonomy in who they are and their personal identity. So guess what? They're acting and reacting just as they should as we progress throughout this this level of where we are in consciousness, right? Humanity, humans, you are amazing. Like, you just have to just keep going. Like, keep going, trusting, believing, and knowing, right? Like, your work is already there in terms of who is you already have the essence and spirit of DuVernay, 13th Amendment, being around those people. And so that's one reason why, of course, besides your history of working with Bishop and in your spiritual connectedness, I also wanted to bring you on because, we're a loving community. We're not just like all spiritual and kumbaya and all that, no. Although, don't get it twisted, I still got some people in here that they might get a little quickening. Who's in this thing? I know Miss Dorothy's not gonna get a quickening, but Joe might get a quickening. Hey, kumadaha, it might speak a little bit. Speak in tongues or something. Which I think is beautiful, very beautiful. Oh, Justin Young's a beautiful. You go back, Miss Dara, and listen to last week's show with Justin Young. He and his father are coming from literally hardcore evangelical church, and now they reestablished it, and they're doing this expanded conscious stuff in the church setting in Southern Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow is right. If you look at their post, you're just like, oh my God, like, oh, great. This is awesome. It's good to see you, brother. So tell me now, of course, you have all your stuff you've done, but then you had your music, right? I think, how are you with your music? Are you still tied? You still loving your music, of course, and doing it? You said you just was doing some worship stuff. Tell me about you and what's going on with how you're feeling in your music.
Yeah, I've been a jazz singer. I mean, that's what I am by trade. I am a singer. And so I just put out my 6th studio album a couple of years ago, and we're getting ready to release another album next year.
Oh, beautiful.
So, yeah, I end up getting categorized as a jazz singer, though what I do, I feel like, is a lot more expansive than that, but I end up being played on jazz stations or, being placed in jazz playlists. And so, yeah, it's very interesting to kind of make the journey that I have with the online stuff and still try to kind of keep an awareness of myself as a singer, because this other stuff, this online world has just kind of, it's just taken over, you know, a lot of my life and a lot of my time. And it pays better than music ever did. You know, when companies reach out to you or nonprofits reach out to you and say, we want you to make content around this thing, you know, climate change or whatever, reproductive rights or whatever. So it's very cool to kind of to get into that space. I mean, I got invited to go to the DNC and do some reporting out there and stuff. So it's just it's a whole, you know, as Ariel says, it's a whole new world to be involved in. And so kind of stepping back and remembering that I am by trade, I'm a singer. That's what I do. I'm still that. I'm getting ready to go to Tulsa actually this next week and do a show. I have a show on Wednesday in Tulsa at TU. So I'm doing like what I call the Breakdown Live, which is like a hybrid talk. So I'm going to be doing a talk on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then I'll be weaving music through that. So I'll have my band with me and we're going to be doing some jazz performance stuff. And then I'll just yakety yak, I guess, in between in between the songs and do some Q&A and whatever, you know, people want to hear me talk about. So I'm hoping to get into more of those kinds of performances, because then that marries a lot of what I'm doing in terms of education and cultural, you know, sharing of cultural information online, that marries that with the music. And so that's a really cool space for me to be able to live in. And so, yeah, I have that coming up next week on Wednesday, the 18th in Tulsa. And so I'm kind of deciding what the song list is going to be for the next project and like who's going to be on it and where are we going to record it. And we're just deep in that process right now. So I'm thankful that the music still has a place. I'm thankful we have it's kind of a smaller label out of Nashville, Tennessee that we work with, so that I don't have to do fundraisers to make these albums happen. And that's really cool, because if it was up to all of that at this point, I'm exhausted of all of that. I've done music for so many years that it's like, well, you know, I'm kind of tired of the push. I'm tired of the climb, and I'm ready to just experience the music and the purity of what it is. And if people want to hear it, then great. But, you know, I'm tired of knocking on doors. I just feel like I've kind of passed that stage, but I do enjoy making music. I still really enjoy making music.
That's beautiful. Well, I guess I should have my schedule clear, and I'll see if I can bring some other people out to see you next.
Oh, are you physically in Tulsa still? Oh, okay. I don't think I realized that you're in Tulsa.
Yeah, I'm still here. It's fun. It's cool.
Very cool.
So we'll reach out, and you know that what you're doing there, you're doing that, right? Right. You're creating that reality. Like everything you're doing on these, you're creating that reality. And when you come into Tulsa, in that you're creating that reality. All it's going to do is just you're keeping the music alive. The minute that I remember I was talking to, I think it was Toby Keith, and Toby said that it was like he was just touring and touring and touring, and then he is like, he was just that way. I'm done with all this. I'm just tired and I'm done with it. And literally, it just clicked. And not the music, but energetically, it clicked. And and of course, the rest is history. He literally excelled from that moment, you know? And so I really believe there's something there within you. And as you're doing what you do, and I can't wait to see, my brother works with TU. And so that I can't wait to see that. I know exactly what you're talking about, how TU does that. That's how I worked with Dr. Bernice King that way. They had brought her in. So I don't know, something company recorded or something on video.
Okay.
Of her.
Yeah, I'm there. I have a friend who works in the diversity, equity, and inclusion office. And so she's bringing us in just to kind of, you know, do a talk. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's beautiful. Well, I've been talking to Leslie too, and I've been talking Joel, and we're talking about, you talk about genres of music and how you've been put into certain categories. And the thing is I felt led to buy the affirmationmusic.com is because there's this gap of the space where between you got people that come and they understand worship and what that looks like. But then you got this space where you hear music that can actually touch you. That's not necessarily gospel or Christian music. And you hear it and it touches your soul. Where does some of this music lie when it's like, I want to listen to something that's going to be something that's going to speak to me, something that's going to move, and something that, has a hook that I can sing, that's meditative and that's right, that brings some life. And it's interesting because if you listen to a lot of music, it's kind of going that way. It always has it. That Freedom track, of course, it's older, but the Freedom track that they use with Kamala, Beyonce, it's really has that sound to it. But it sounds like you are moving and doing and becoming and knowing. And I know for a fact that just looking at you online and everything you have going and the way you do your stories, it's you have everything to have that phone call. Everything is done where you get that phone call, right? And it's HBO, right? And it's, some people want that phone call and they want that thing to happen. But then when you look at their life, it's like, okay, you're still sleeping in and you're not doing shit. Although that still can make things happen. And so I appreciate you for your stories. Everyone that's out there that is listening to me, I want to make sure that you guys, of course, go follow her. She's everywhere. Right. And is there anything no book yet?
No, I have not written a book yet. It's been rolling around in the back of my mind, but I'm just like, among all the many things I'm doing right now, I'm just like trying to figure out when I would ever have time to sit down and write it.
Well, no, you don't. Well, and the thing is, you would have the time to sit down and write it is when the publisher comes to you and say, hey, we need you to write X book and here's the check. Right. That sounds a little better, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, that's where I am with the music at this point. It's like, they came to us and said, hey, do you want to make an album? Came to us again a couple months ago and said, hey, we want to do another one. Okay, great. I'm not knocking on those doors right now. There's certain doors I've just stopped knocking on. So
good. You keep doing the work. You're done. You don't need to. It's like you don't need to do that anymore. All you got to do is just shift that energy to know that it's already done. Like, this is what I do for a living, right? But anyway, just shift that energy to know it's already done. And matter of fact, just begin to plan it. Anything where you're at, anything that you desire, you already do this. But anything you desire, just already start making plans as though it's done, but without the fact that you need to do all the work that you have done to get to where you are. If you get what I mean by that.
Yeah, I feel that because when my husband and I moved up here we first left Nashville. It was at the beginning of the pandemic. We did not know that the pandemic was about to hit. And we got to New Jersey, which is where we first landed. He worked for a jazz radio station in New Jersey. And that was why we left Nashville. And, we had climbed as high as we could in the music scene, really, to be jazz singers in Nashville, jazz performers in Nashville. He's a bass player. And there was just this big question about, okay, well, what's next? What is this next phase of our lives? Because, I didn't do the climb in New York like most jazz singers would. And I was always frustrated, like hitting that ceiling. I mean, won the music awards there and performed at every major venue there. There was nothing more that I could have done in Nashville. So we moved away and it was like, well, wow, do I have to turn around and do this climb that I've been doing for the last, 13 years or something? Am I going to have to turn around and try to do this climb in New York? I don't have the energy for it. And I really got the sense, started getting the sense as we were coming over the New Jersey border. I started hearing the phrase, the price has already been paid. The price has already been paid. Like you're not going to have to do what you did there. You're not coming here to do that again. That's not what this is about. The price has already been paid. And so, that really affected my consciousness, in terms of how I made decisions after I left Nashville. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, then I said to him, I had already started doing little mini documentaries on my friends in Nashville. I had a online series called Music City Select, and I was storytelling and telling, these little 3 to 5 minute pieces, 5 to 10 minute pieces really on my musician friends down there. And I would just do little mini documentaries on them. And I told him, I said, I need to invest in some more equipment. I need a new camera. I need some more audio equipment because I feel like there's an audience that I'm supposed to reach that I haven't found them. I have something to say and I have not found them. I have not made that connection yet. And I don't know how I'm going to make that connection with them, but I feel like they're out there and they're waiting. They're waiting for me to speak. They're waiting for me to talk. So at the pandemic, that was when I started just turning on that camera and speaking, even when it made me uncomfortable, and reminding myself that my job was not to placate anyone. It was sometimes it's going to be my job to disappoint people. I got to disappoint the right people. And so pushing past all of those reservations I had, it's like, oh my God, I'm a singer and they're not going to want to hear this from me and they're going to be disappointed and they're not going to buy my music and blah, 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 but really that understanding that the price had already been paid for whatever was next, whatever this next thing is, the groundwork has already been laid for that. And it's really up to me to step into that, to walk into it and, push past all of those internal reservations. Because at this point, the limitations that were on my life were coming. The call was coming from inside the house. It was me who was placing those limitations on myself. So just kind of peeling away those layers. That's what my journey has been about for the last, I would say, 5 years now. It's coming up on,
What would you like to see for the future? Would you like to see a documentary, movie, book? What would you like to see?
I'm just like that little 12-year-old girl, that little 12-year-old Dara who just kind of wants, who wants to be a filmmaker, who wants to be involved in media and, storytelling. I want to be able to do that at a very high level. And I want to continue to communicate with people who are of like mind, how they can kind of break past that wall, because that's a process, breaking past that wall and living into the fullness of who you are. So I want to have that role in some way of just I guess that Oprah thing is what you're talking about. It's such a corny thing to be like, oh, I want to be like Oprah. But, just considering everything that she did for me, like I said, she was a second mother to me. She really was. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she wanted to have a career, but she had 7 children. So that was not really a realistic pursuit for her. So for me to have a model like Oprah, who was, not only was she a businesswoman, was she out there kind of conquering the world, but she, like you said, the first Black woman billionaire in, just period, for her to accomplish everything that she did. And for that she operated as a mentor to me. So when I think about what I should be doing, I'm not necessarily like hosting a talk show in the same way, but like reaching people, communicating with people, connecting with people in that same way and helping them to, dig deeper and find out more about who they are. But yeah, working in film, working in media, working in entertainment, just whatever that means, just reaching people, connecting with people. I don't know. Oprah said, and I've started to repeat another one of her aphorisms. She says, God can dream a bigger dream for you than you can ever dream for yourself. So I've heard her say very recently, that she has stopped dreaming. She's like, half of the stuff that's happened to me in my life, I never could have dreamt. I never would have known. I mean, I couldn't have told you 5 years ago that I was going to have 1 million followers on TikTok. TikTok didn't even exist. Maybe it was just starting. I couldn't have projected that. Well, you see, I want to have a following of this, and I want to be making mini documentaries, and I want to be talking about culture and this, and then I want to start working with nonprofits to do content on climate justice and reproductive rights and crime. And I couldn't have told you what I would be doing right now. There's no way I could have voiced that. But I knew that I had something to say. That's all I knew. Those were the words that I had. That was the concept. I have an audience. The audience is waiting for me. They are waiting to hear from me. Now I need to create the avenue by which to connect to them. And I need to find within myself the courage to speak the words that I need to say, whatever that means. So I've kind of, walked that out step by step. Like I'll throw in a Dr. King quote. You mentioned his daughter. He said one of the things that started me out, I started a little mini documentary on my grandmother actually a few years ago. And the reason I started was I saw the King quote, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to see the first step. If you can see the first step, I need to be speaking out. I need to find my audience. I feel that it's time to speak." That's the first step. So buy the film equipment, figure out what to say after you get the film equipment. That's been my journey. And at this point, it's kind of worked for me. I really like where I have landed so far. I like it. It's like, oh, I couldn't have built this. I couldn't have figured this out. This is unique. So I feel like whatever's going to be next will probably be a little bit unique, something I've never seen before.
Well, we're going to energetically begin to work. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift your alignment so that you understand that you are not becoming a filmmaker with budgets, and that you are not a filmmaker and an artist that is looking to do well. You already are. You already have the budget. It's just, and you already have those big deals, right? You've done it all. Now what we're going to shift in alignment, because once you accept that, it's just amazing how it works. But once you accept that you already are, like if you look at who you are now and what you've been able to accomplish, and the fact that you are already that person, the only thing that separates that from what we see online to you feeling it is the fact that the budgets are there, where when you do that documentary or HBO's calling you, it's like, okay, we got $5 million and we want you to do this, right? That changes the script a little bit. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Like, you out there as a content creator and you got all these people, between TikTok and it's already done, right? It's already done. And so now what you need to do is plan the book, but not plan the book as though you need to just rewrite it. Plan the book as though when the publisher does call you, hold me accountable for this. So you'd be like, listen, they haven't called me yet. What are you talking about? I don't have to worry about it because I operate in a different essence. So that when they do call you, you don't have to spend as much time.
Yeah.
Because what's going to really make them say yes is the fact that you already got the framework of what they need.
Yeah.
You got the audience, but you got the framework. And really more of this has to do with your story as a Black woman overcoming, working through, and being able to see and feel, right, and connect, especially to yourself spiritually, more than anything. And so therefore, when this does, as this comes into the present, right, even everything is now. And we're almost, I tell a lot of clients and friends, I tell people, people here that's listening to me now, I tell them that if everything is now and we're in the present, right? But everything is now. The past is the past, but the past is, everything is now, right? The future is still to come, but we still live in the now. And so the way I look at it is like, when you plan this next elevation in your life, look at it like you're telling the story of what you did to achieve this level of who you are. And it's okay to be and feel a certain way about an Oprah, in terms of being like, you know what? She's inspiring. She's accomplished a lot. She's done a lot. And she's been able to have a level of self-mastery to allow these things to unfold. I mean, they told her story in Metaphysical Millionaire. It's a book. And the guy with Metaphysical Millionaire told Steve Jobs and some other people Oprah's story about how Oprah she didn't get into Color Purple just because she was Oprah.
Right.
She got into Color Purple through a metaphysical process and
Yes.
attachment and letting go. And then
I love to hear her tell that story. That's just, it's the most mind-blowing story. It's just unbelievable.
you got that same woo. That's my magic fingers. So we look forward to seeing and hearing more, and maybe next year or something, I'll have you back when we can say, okay, the book deal is done. All right. The film deal is done. It's already done. Just begin to plan what it is. It's kind of weird. Trust me. 100%. And I'm not saying you, Dara Tucker, doing this. I'm saying budget and everything else, everything you need to do it at the level that you are ready for now. Right? You're ready for mass connection to distribution and everything else to society. So I appreciate you for your time. And what I want to do is I'm gonna bring Joel back, and but as I bring him back, one of the things too is, what's a way for, what do you want? Because you may, Joel, probably can pull that down just a hair. But I still want you to play. So people were asking, someone did ask, because I know you got some music out there. Some people bought music. We like to contribute it. We don't like this. I'm not going to sit here and just talk all this and not necessarily do something. Okay. So they were asking Cash App, or we could actually ask, they also, like, if you have anything, if there's some music, how can we contribute?
Yeah, I have all of those things. I guess if you go to my socials, there's a link in my bio, or you can find me under, any of the, I really appreciate you all being willing to contribute to whatever. I have a Patreon, Cash App, Venmo, all of that stuff. And then, and then
which one are you looking like? Because your Patreon, your content?
I don't put a whole lot on Patreon. I do probably once a month. I do like a life update. So if people actually want to know what's going on with me behind the scenes, me and my husband will sit down and just kind of talk about what's going on. But yeah, I don't put a lot of content on the Patreon. It's mostly folks that just say, we want to support you and help you do what you do. So but the Patreon's there. I'm sorry?
You have a big community. Like, there's people that you have a big community. There's people that really want to not just donate. They want to pay you to listen to you. I promise they do. They really do. And guide them and push them into exactly what you need them to do. But anyways, guys, I'm going to, because if you want us to join Patreon and follow, we got that. But here, I'm going to post this link to the link tree, because on this link tree, you can find her Venmo, her Cash App, and then you can follow some of her other links.
I really appreciate that, Malachi. I do. I appreciate that. And all the folks who are checking in and asking about that. I mean, people, I get self-conscious. People put up links or whatever, GoFundMes and things like that. And because I know what it's like to be an artist, and I know what it's like to have to fundraise, like for creating albums and things. And sometimes I think people are embarrassed, like, oh, I only have $5 or whatever. I've had people reach out to me and be like, I'm just so sorry. I only have, it's like, well, man, if everybody who thought, oh, I really like this person's work, if everybody thought to just, throw in $1 or $2 here and there, just whenever you think about it, if there are artists and creatives and people that you enjoy and whose work you benefit from, if you think about them, if they cross your mind, even if you just go throw them $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever. I mean, if more people would just do that, there would be more artists and more creative people that would not have to necessarily work in some soul crushing job that they don't want to work in. And I'm thankful now to be pulling in enough to be able to do what I do independently. But there was a time where I was working the soul crushing job, you know, and if all the people who said, "Oh, we love you, we love what you do," if even half of them had stopped and you know, sent a little $5 here and there, my life would have been different. So yeah, I'm just speaking on behalf of you know, all artists, all creative people. Just support them in whatever way you can. But I really appreciate you making that opportunity available, Malachi.
We want to support you. Okay? You deserve to be supported, even if you have $150,000 G-Wagon. Right? Even if you just living it up. Right? You still produce quality. Right? You still put your heart into it. My sense is just basically, I'm gonna let you know, you're worth millions.
Oh, thank you.
No, listen, you're worth millions. Millions. You're worth millions, and you're gonna do it and be able to bring money and be able to do what you've been wanting to do with your success. You don't want just money so you can just have that nice car. You want money so that you can actually start doing other things. That was your true ministry, is that you wanted to give money away and you wanted to bless people and you wanted to do stuff, right? It's not over, right? But what we have to do is we got to remove some of the energies and blocks. We're going to remove, and all y'all help me in the sense, we're going to remove some of the energies and blocks that I feel in my spirit right now that want you literally to do millions, receive the millions, do the millions, and do what the hell you want to do with the money. You know what I'm saying? If you want to live it up, you can live it up, but we know that you will do the right thing.
My grandmother raised me to do the right thing. I can't. I don't know no other way but to bless people, to help people, to invest in people, and yeah, that's where my heart is.
But we need you to have a certain amount before you start doing all that. Yeah. You can do a little, you can do some, but we need you to have a certain amount. So when I come to this page, I need you to sell me something directly. Matter of fact, people should be paying you for your content and the way you have your content. I've done work with in some of the documentaries with Roland Martin, and there's certain content creators out there that literally, you're doing the work, and some of this stuff you're doing, you have a community, and that community would be willing to contribute a certain, you know, and then you can have levels where it's like, you know, so that you can be fully independent, like not only just fully independent, but like I said, making millions, doing what you do. I want you to receive that in your spirit, and I want you to begin to not receive it like as in like you want it. I want you to put it in your spirit like, if you had it right now today and you felt it, what would it feel like? So if it makes you feel happy, if it makes you feel excited, after so long, you know, you can get just worn out and worn down, and you get tired of feeling like that. Like, oh my God, I'm wishing again. Oh my God, I'm dreaming again. And we stop dreaming, right? And then people talk about you whenever they start talking about Oprah. Like, oh, you want to be like Oprah, and I want to care about Oprah. You know why? It's because once you reach that level of money, all of a sudden people put you in a whole nother stratosphere or category of human, and all of a sudden you're no longer human. Like, oh, Illuminati and this and that. And you know what? I want you to join them. I want you to join that Illuminati in your heart right now. I'm okay with it. I want you to be I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being able to have abundance in my life. More than I can imagine abundance. I speak abundance all over your life, sis.
You know what? We quote, my husband and I claim that every day. Abundance. This is our quote. This is our confession. Abundance flows into our lives in surprising and miraculous ways every day. Abundance flows into our lives in surprising and miraculous ways every day. And like I said, I grew up with all the name it and claim it stuff. And so I kind of turned my nose at it when I heard it. It was someone that I heard say it. I think they were actually talking to Oprah now that I think of it. And I turned to him and I said, I just heard a quote that I really appreciate. I was like, something just, connected with me. And I told him, and I remembered what it was, and I told him later. And we've been saying that to each other sometimes multiple times a day. The difference in our lives now versus 5 years ago when we first started saying that is just, it's night and day. And I'm not, like I said, I don't, know how I necessarily, having grown up with just so much of this, just you speak this thing into existence. I still kind of sit back and go, well,
the problem,
I'm not trying to say it's all woo-woo or whatever, but
I get it. The problem that we have with it when we did the naming and claiming is we didn't feel like we already had it. We were still naming something and claiming something, but we didn't feel like it was already done. And now we're just in our space. We didn't detach and say, whether I get it or not, that's not the deal because it's already done. So I'm gonna begin to act as though. So what would that do? Just no different. You're like, okay, I got to get the camera equipment. Okay, I have to get the camera equipment. Okay, now I got to create the space. Now all you have to do is you don't have to put the time. You don't want it to be uncomfortable and put the time in the book. I'm just saying, okay, if the book deal's coming in, Malachi said the book deal's coming in. What is it? Movie deal? What is it? I want you to take it out there in the stratosphere. I want you to take it as though you're talking to Oprah. And Oprah says, oh, I love you and love your work. She already does. She's seen it. Now it's just a conversion and alignment. See you. I'm going to come and see you at TU.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
I want you guys, I put that link up there. I want you guys to make sure that we go Vimeo or Vimo, Cash App, and make sure that we look on there. She's got a lot. She's not playing around. I love your earrings. You have some earrings?
Oh, my sister has a little business where she's selling earrings that she did some Kamala Harris earrings. They say we're not going back. So I did a little video telling people about her earrings.
Beautiful. Look at you. You still you want everybody to make it, and I love it. It's beautiful, but we need you to make it first. Big. Okay? We need you to make it big because you're already equipped and you have everything. Everything is already done. Like all you got to do is look at the page, look at who you are, right? And then someone says, "Hey, we need her to host. We need her to be the one." Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Your space, right? And real quick, thank you. Dr. Joel, we're going to get this together and we're going to pipe it in. It's a different experience, but I wanted to do it because, one, I'm tired of him sitting home and being a medical doctor and being able to play and not playing. So I don't care. He's going to play. That's the bishop spirit in me. I've been channeling Bishop since he was alive. Because I would write for him. I mean, he would write, and I would actually have to rewrite his stuff and post it because I did all the internet. And so channeling his spirit now. He was always a person that wanted to lift other people up to the point where he always would. He would almost not make it, or he would give his last. And I believe in that, but I don't believe in it in the sense of the fact that you could give, but we got to maximize who you are so you can give more. and we dealt with that a lot, which was still beautiful because of the fact that he operated from the heart as much as he can. And I've never seen nobody transition and die the way he did. Like, I'm done, bye. Like, I'm good. I'm done with this. I'm tired. And my body's failing and it's been doing weird stuff. And so now I'm okay. Let's just keep going. Okay. And so if y'all just stay with me for about, let's say, a couple minutes, right? Because I believe in energy, understand energy. So what I want everybody to do is just take a moment real quick. We're going to just close your eyes and take a deep breath. All together as we do this, it synchronizes frequency and vibration. Heart energy is more than the energy from the brain. The heart kind of pushes out, if you will. So I want everyone to center and focus on your heart. As you breathe, I'll take this moment to bless and connect to everyone that's here. And that they feel the abundance of life. Everyone may be experiencing some level of transition. But we understand that we're not in trouble. We're just in transition. We have the power to heal ourselves and to see what we desire in our lives and to believe that good conscious, we elevate our frequencies. The frequency that allows us to connect to everything that is. As we focus on Miss Dara Tucker tonight and what she's doing to actually expand consciousness and make the world more connected within a level of unity and understanding. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Miss Dara Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joel. And everybody that's in the room. And if you are in Tulsa, she's going to be in Tulsa next Wednesday, the 18th. If I find out the time, I'll post it on my wall. And if not, I'm pretty sure she may post it. Or hopefully she posts it on her wall.
Yes, I will be posting about it.
All right.
It's in the link tree as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think that's happening, brother. He said, I live in Pakistan. Would you like to preach the word of God in a church? No, Dara might. I'm not. Maybe that's spam. I'm sorry, brother. I hope you are, we appreciate you in Pakistan. We appreciate you. Everybody, we're all good. Cool. There we go. Miss Dorothy. Where's the link? Okay, we'll get that link posted. We got, make sure you guys subscribe to her channels and subscribe to her page, and make sure you share her material. That all helps us grow. Mother White, if you Mother White's here in Tulsa. So if you guys are here, let's go ahead and connect, and we'll look at being in her show. Cool. Thank you guys so much. I guess we will end the show this evening. You're amazing. I appreciate you, Miss Dara, and I appreciate you, Joel.
Thank you so much, Malachi. And it's good to meet you, Joel.
Yeah. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.